Hey, welcome. How we doing? Sure, it's a little tight. I just figured out how to do this thing finally. Let me turn down this volume. That should be better volume right there, right? Yeah. Just figured out how to do this. Watch. That's cool. Okay, so what are we doing today? We are going to be talking about how I see, and maybe this is a good way for you listening to this to think about it as well, or maybe this will click a little bit in your mind, because I know it did for me when I kind of understood this. How is pitching mechanics just like singing a song? Whoa. And I could literally say the same thing. I don't know if you guys have followed me, but if you have followed me since 2018, deep cuts, then you know that I'm a huge advocate of juggling. How is juggling like pitching mechanics in terms of brain-body connection, thought processes, subconscious, conscious thoughts, and so on. So this shouldn't take long, but knowing me, I'll probably talk for 73 minutes and say the same thing in 42 different languages? No. All right. So how is pitching mechanics like singing a song? So everyone, I think, has the idea and the understanding of the systematic approach that is pitching mechanics development and performance. So what I mean by that is I think we have a pretty good understanding of how it correlates between when to think about and work on pitching mechanics and when to optimize certain things, when to, do drill progressions and consciously have to think and feel, and this is where brain-body connection comes in, certain movements and explore certain movements. And then when is it time to then shut that off and then get into a game and to perform. Because like I said, I think we have a good understanding of how that system works, and we have a good understanding of like why that's important. I haven't met too many people, and I've met a lot of people throughout this journey that do really well when they think about, like when they consciously think about mechanics in a game. I haven't met too many. I've been so curious, which has led me to asking a lot of very successful people questions. And I would say that the things that I've found out by asking these questions and honestly in my own personal development as well, that we strive for what is called flow state. And if you've been following me for some time, you know that I am a huge nerd when it comes to flow state. I would encourage everyone listening to this that geeks out on this type of stuff. I would encourage you guys to read the book Rise of Superman. It talks about action adventure sports and how when it comes life or death, you have to be in a state of flow, which basically is a state in which there's no conscious thoughts. There's just breath and it's physical reaction and response. Obviously, it's a little bit, I don't want to use the word easier, but it's a little bit blank to have that state of mind or have that flow state when you're doing action adventure sports because like things are happening so quick. It's another thing to do it in pitching, baseball in general. Why? Because there's a lot of time between action and there's a lot of potential area in which to explore the inner workings of your mind. So obviously this is just talking about like the zone, right? So with that being said, how is this pitching mechanics thing related to, or how I would see fit to talk about how is it like singing a song? So when you're singing a song, and this came to me like unintentionally because I was in the car singing a song, and I'm one of the best singers, carpool karaoke, ever. Wrong. But I was sitting there by myself singing. This was on the road trip home, I think, from New York. And it was a song that like I knew some of the words. I felt like I knew some of the words, so I can, sing it out loud. And it was probably nighttime, so I was like trying to do that to stay awake. So I start singing and like I'm hitting it. And then it got to a verse in the song that my mind, like, consciously, and this is where, like, there's a gray area, because it's like, well, what is conscious, what is subconscious, where I consciously had to, like, think, what is that next verse, right? So it, like, my mind sparked, boom, what is that next verse? And then I thought about it, and then I was done. Like, I had to take 2 verses off and then get back into the singing the song. I wonder what you guys' facial expressions are right now as I'm saying this. So as soon as I consciously thought about, like, oh, well, what's the lyrics? Then it was like I was done, and I couldn't think of the lyrics because my conscious thought process took over just the response and the reaction. So maybe you're getting a pretty good picture here on how this relates to pigeon mechanics, because here's the thing with pigeon mechanics, and I've talked about this multiple times. It's a preparation type dynamic in which you prepare before you get into battle. And then when you get into battle, it's trust preparation, clear thought, rely on response, maybe incorporate a little bit of personal cues, things that kind of get you back to, your type of flow state, if you will, from a physical and mental side. But we want to obviously just rely on our body's physical athleticism, consistency, and repeatability to accomplish the task, because I'll speak from my personal experience in this game of baseball and this art of pitching, that as soon as my mind wants to engage, which is catch-22, because your brain, your mind's responsibility is to protect against threat and is to engage when there's the threat. And obviously a threat in performance is like, holy smokes, I'm vulnerable, right? So like it's going against the catch-22 is like you're having to go against what your brain is like encoded to do, because it's only wanting to help. So then it becomes like, okay, well then how do we do this? How do we practice this? How do we get better at this? And this is where like the entire process is going to look differently for everybody. But when you go back to the dynamic of like singing a song and pitching mechanics, the other correlation would be, I've met plenty of guys, and I've tried to incorporate this myself as well, who do kind of like sing a song while they're pitching, or take their conscious thought to something entirely different than what the body's doing. And that's moving to produce power output in a short window of time. So, and I'll double back on that in a little bit too here, as I get into something that I think worked really well for me at one point in my career. But I've talked to a lot of guys that do that, and those types of guys they need to target their conscious thought. They need to target the inner workings of their mind, because they've realized that there was no turning it off. Right. So like you have this commonality, of guy, or you have this dynamic of, we want to be in a flow state of mind to get the most out of our body, our physical being, right? And to get the most out of all the work we've done, all the preparation. But there's an identification process that is involved to where like you need to know, are you somebody that is actually going to do more harm than good when you try super hard to shut this off? Like is you trying, hopefully this is going to make sense. Is you trying to shut your mind off and your thought patterns off? Is that amplifying the issue? Right? So, and the reason why I bring that up is because that was me to a T. I knew what the issue was. It wasn't the physical. It wasn't the work ethic. It wasn't that I wasn't prepared. I've always prided myself on my work ethic. I've always prided myself on being extremely prepared when I go to perform. But in between the ears, man, I knew that the problem was there. And that's when I started diving into all of this mental game stuff. And that's when I stumbled upon this flow state, basically clear the mechanism, all this, mainstream topics, if you will. And I was like, oh, that's it. I just got to clear my mind. And I'm not saying this is bad. Obviously it's great. I talk a lot on my podcast about, breathing and incorporating a breathing routine to where you can set yourself up to have that success with getting into flow state. So I knew that was the issue. And then I would, again, me being a perfectionist, would try super hard to grasp this skill, if you will, of being able to shut my mind off in a game. And now it would happen sometimes, right? And then as soon as I came to be, I was like, whoa, I'm out. And that's the beauty of flow state, is you don't realize when you're in it, but as soon as you do, you're not in it anymore. All right. It's like the zone. That's why no one sits next to the pitcher when he's throwing a no-no or a perfect game and he's in the 8th inning. Right. So I know I'm getting a little off track, but going back to that understanding of yourself, understanding thyself. So that's what took me 2 years, I think, to figure out. It took me getting released to figure out was, what is it going to be for me, right? Am I going to be somebody that can incorporate a really good strategy of breath work in games, in performance, to help myself get into that state and to be my best version physically of myself when I'm in a game and it matters? Or is it a targeting mechanism where I can then target my thought process? What are you targeting is the question, right? 2012, going actually 2 years before I had gotten released, was probably my best year as a starting pitcher in affiliated ball. And that's when I did something that I didn't realize I was actually doing from a mechanism standpoint. Was I was targeting my brain's desire to always be on into scouting reports. And I would just dive fully into scouting reports. And that was like a targeting mechanism for okay, I'm going to be thinking here. I'm going to be on, dude. We're going to be going upstairs, but let me target it to, okay, this guy, I faced him 2 weeks ago and he saw the ball deep. I couldn't tell if he was trying to get, or if he was trying to see the ball deep, or if he was just not on time with my heater. So I'm going to flip in a curveball here, see what he does. And then, obviously there's a lot going on up there. But it's a targeting mechanism. So then fast forward 2 years, later, where now my thoughts, I went to the bullpen, so it was a little bit trickier to then target scouting reports. I think it's just easier as a starting pitcher. So where now I was in the bullpen, wasn't able to really target my thoughts into scouting reports. Now those thoughts went into basically negative self-talk, trying to consciously feel physical movements through space in a window of 2 seconds at most. And that, frick, that next thing you know, it's like, holy crap. So then after I got released, 2015 came, that's when I started getting this good understanding of myself, what I needed to do. And now I'm at the point, I'm 30 years old, been playing this game for, feels like forever. Now I have a pretty good idea of how kind of to do both. And I think it is somewhat of a how much do you care thing, because that was always my biggest downfall, was that I cared so much. I mean, I do care so much about this game. And I love this game so much that was kind of like a downfall, was that I was trying so hard, and my brain obviously knew how much I cared about this game and how much I didn't want to suck at it. And so therefore it was just trying to help in the heat of the moment, which, like I said, is the brain's sole responsibility, and didn't go good. So it's a learning, it's an identifying, but that's what I got. I think my goal of this podcast is to kind of give you maybe an analogy of how this thing works, because I think once you get the understanding of like, oh, that makes sense. Like pitching mechanics should be like singing a song. You're right. When I sing a song, I'm not really consciously thinking about the lyrics. I'm just kind of singing and I'm going in rhythm. Now, another really cool piece to this, and that I could tie in and probably do another 48-minute podcast or segment on, is this understanding of pitching mechanics as it pertains to tempo and rhythm, and then the understanding of how song works. Right? When you know a song, how much like song lyrics do you store in your brain without even like really knowing? And I believe it's more of a tempo and rhythm thing, right? So tempo and rhythm are going to influence like your ability to sing that song without consciously doing it. Same thing goes for pitching mechanics, in my opinion, right? So you obviously prepare, just like you sing a song, or listen to a song, you listen to it over and over again, and you're in a good state of mind to absorb that information. Same thing, like correlation to pitching mechanics, right? And then when it comes time to perform, aka either sing that song out loud or pitch a baseball in a game to a hitter with an umpire and people in the stands, when it comes time to perform, it's like, all right, tempo, rhythm, going to influence the following moves, and I'm just going, boom, boom, singing the song. Don't think about it. It's like, here's another one, dude. I do this all the time. I can sing the national anthem word for word, no hiccups whatsoever. But then when it comes time to like sing it by my, like out loud with no instrument, or with not an instrument, but like when no one's singing it, that's kind of what I meant. Like when you're standing on the foul line, they're singing the national anthem, like I'm singing along with it. And I'm like, oh, word for word. But then as soon as you take me away from that environment and you put me like on my own, and then I try to sing it, I'd mess up the lyrics every single time, because there's not really any rhythm. There's not really any tone set. There's not a tempo established. Kind of the same thing. And that's why, again, if you're listening to this, been following me for a while, you know how much I've talked about like tempo influences rhythm. Now, everyone's tempo is going to be different. Everyone's rhythm is going to be different, but it's about understanding the tempo and understanding the rhythm that you work best at and how those are going to influence the following moves. So when it comes to pitching mechanics, like find that out. And I think that's everyone's responsibility as a pitcher, as a great athlete, is truly identify what it is and what it's going to take for you to be at your best every single time you go out and perform. Easier said than done, right? Because sometimes you like think you have it and then it's gone. And then you're like, well, back to the drawing board. But I would encourage you on, this ending thought here. I would encourage you to maybe figure that out by just playing around, trial and error with like, all right, maybe I do struggle a little bit in between the years. Maybe I do struggle with the mental game. I'm going to try for a week, maybe two, every time I get on the mound, every time I step in the box, I'm going to try to sing a song and direct my attentiveness, my conscious thoughts to something else. And you can do that with anything, right? In terms of, you don't necessarily have to sing a song. You could just kind of do something else. Remember in the sequel to Major League, Billy Brubaker? Was that his name? Yeah, I think so. The catcher who had to like recite Victoria's Secret catalog lines, and he just targeted his thoughts to something totally different, and then he accomplished the physical task because his brain wasn't so fixated on like the physical. That's literally it. And I would encourage you to kind of go through maybe a trial and error process of doing that and seeing if that helps. I'm sitting here now, I'm like getting so many different ideas, but I literally wanted this to be like 15 minutes, but now it's almost 20. It's okay. I enjoy talking. Anyways, in closing thoughts, I'm done with that analogy of pitching mechanics. Actually, no, one more. The juggling thing. Same thing with juggling. I don't know if you guys ever juggled, but you can't juggle with like being on, turned on upstairs. That sounded weird. That's why I like a lot of sports. Oh, that makes sense. Now I just came to an epiphany. No wonder I like a lot of sports that are super fast paced. I just got into hacky sack, ping pong. Always been into basketball. Super fast, like, and then I can't stand golf. Makes sense, right? Maybe I need to take up golf. Maybe that'll help me with like the mental game. Yeah. Wow. That was good. All right. So I'm going to go. Thank you guys for listening. In closing, I want to let you guys know that my ebook, yes, I finally can say this. This is my first time saying it. This is great. A Complete Guide to Pitching Mechanics, the ebook I've been working on for 2 years, is finally done. It's on my website. It's ready to be freaking purchased, dude. And if you're a website member, you can actually use a discount code. And since you're a listener, subscriber, if you're watching this on YouTube, listening to this on podcasts, I guess you're already like a quote unquote member. So I'll just give you the discount code. Members 25 is going to be your discount code for 25% off. That'll be running for probably the first 2 weeks. I launched this book yesterday. So be sure to check that out. therobbyrowshow.com/product/mechanics-ebook. I'll include the link in the show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, it'll be in the description. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, it'll be in the show notes. Just click the link. That is so fun to finally say that I got that done. You can also check out an intro video. It's just me talking about like everything that went into that dang thing and why it took long and what to expect. All right. Thanks for watching, or thanks for listening. And I love you guys. God bless. Enjoy your day. Pitch mechanics. It's like singing a song, man. Just like singing a song. Till next time. Adios, homies.